Hi there. So, in kind of part one of this session, we looked at how to use Watson Beat to produce the Midi files from something we'd actually created. So, this is the kind of result of what I've got. And just before we carry on, one of the things that I mentioned in the last session, which we didn't go into, is actually what the Midi file names mean. So, you have kind of different variations sometimes on the same things. You might get three bass parts. The idea isn't to use them all together, but that you might want to switch between them as they will add more variation. And you get kind of high, mid, and low strings, string arps, and stuff like that meant to be used with arpeggiators. You get kind of sort of piano parts, brass parts, melody parts, drums, stuff like that. And you get this is quite interesting, the notation left and right, which kind of gives you like the harmony, like a sketch of the harmony. So say here, it's not actually meant to be played back, but is a great thing if you're going to use this notation or software package to produce your music because it gives you an idea of harmony. So this is just really, really rough. I've not actually had much time to fully sketch this out yet. What I tried to do is in our last session, this piece of music here is what we actually generated. And then what I did after the session, so this was using, I think, Inspirational as an init file. And afterwards, I used another template, which gives us this section, which is a little more contemporary, I think, than this is a little more kind of, I don't know, just not bland, it's just quite kind of pastiche of being inspirational, whereas this is more interesting, I think, what it gives us. But just as a reminder, this is where the audio came from. And just to recap as well, it's all just been generated on the original kind of just the melody, essentially. Yeah, so just the melody, not the harmony as well. It's just had the melody. So the rest of it's generated all itself. So maybe if we have a listen to the section we generated in the session. Yeah, so that gives you an idea about what it generated. So I've had to do quite a bit of editing around, just move in terms of instruments for a start, trying to figure out what sounds good, kind of where or will sound good. So these short notes are kind of melody. Mel 5 is melody, but they kind of worked quite well. It kind of woodwind with the strings doing more of this kind of material. Um, so you've got that, and then there's this kind of quite contrasting section here. And again, so I haven't really altered any of the notes. All I did here is this bit here that kind of joins these two sections. Basically, I was looking for a way to join them. I haven't done the automation yet, but obviously this would kind of fade down eventually into this section is the idea. But just basically, I figured out actually the kind of area that we're at harmonically at this point is kind of the fifth chord of this key here. So we kind of just use that to move between them. So I'll play the whole piece so you can get the idea of it. Remember, all I wrote really was this, just these notes here, which basically kind of just arpeggiate a C chord, then an F sharp chord, and then kind of back to a kind of C chord. The B's harmonically, I'm thinking of being kind of the third note of a G chord. So it's like C chord, G chord, C chord, and then so the F sharp, I think F here maybe to F sharp, and then kind of G, C. So it's very, very functional, very simple, but kind of got a crazy kind of move from C to F sharp in the space of 4 bars. And it was really interesting to see what what some beat kind of did to deal with that and to deal with me throwing like some crazy notes at it. So let's have a listen and see what it came up with as a whole piece, joining two kind of outputs together from two different INI files. There you go. So remember, all of that came from just these notes here, and then it's kind of expanded it all out using Watson Beat. You can see I've kind of muted bits off that didn't really fit, or I didn't like, or I've just not found a place for yet. And yeah, I kind of edited things around, but I haven't actually really changed a lot of notes. Apart from this section here, I just basically made it do a chord 5 to move to here. Eventually I'll do a kind of fade down on it, but you can kind of see how like you can start getting a lot of ideas together. It needs a lot of cleaning up, like this part here needs cleaning up, but I'll do that in notation, which is the next step. So the next step would be to kind of usually, because I'm old school, we probably don't have to do this anymore, but usually like bringing all of the MIDI files back to the beginning, gluing them all together. So I would take these three on all the ones on this track, for instance. I would glue them all together, so I get just like whole wedges of kind of single regions going across the page on every track, and then I would file and export as the whole project as a MIDI file, all MIDI tracks as MIDI files. Essentially, and then I can import that, which I showed in the last video, into MuseScott and start working on the notation element of it. Is the next kind of thing I'm going to do. But hopefully you can kind of see that this is actually quite useful. I think it does come up with some interesting ideas, particularly rhythmically. I tried to give it a really boring rhythm of just kind of crotchets and minims, and suddenly it's throwing like all these kind of interesting rhythms at us in different parts and stuff like that. And then I think this section here, like, it actually comes up with some really interesting, like, dissonant harmony ideas, which I didn't really expect it to do. I thought it would be more conventional, what it kind of threw at me. So, yeah, there you go. It's quite interesting what, you know, an AI music program will come up with if you give it some random notes.